for those of you that maybe got dragged in here and you're like, what am I even doing in here? Who is this guy? My name is Vic Mignogna. That's Italian, like lasagna, bologna, filet mignon. It's spelled pretty weird, but that's what it sounds like. And I've been voice acting for about 20 years now. And I've done over 300 different animated series and video games. I also exec produce a web series that is my childhood passion called Star Trek Continues, where I get to fulfill my childhood dream of playing Captain Kirk. And we have 11 full-length episodes online, so if this is the first time you're hearing about that, make sure to go home and check it out. You'll enjoy it. It's all free, by the way. I'm not trying to rope you into some subscription or payment. It's all free.
I haven't checked them all yet, but it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. See, Michael doesn't lie.
I don't.
If Michael says it's awesome, it's awesome. So I want to take as much time chatting with you guys as possible. So yesterday, we had a lot of great questions. Who wants to start us off today? Anyone? Yes, sir.
Can you yell Kakarot for me?
It could. Next question. Anyone?
Who would in a fight, Edward or Broly?
Wow. Well, you see, like, Ed's got alchemy, right? I mean, Broly's just really strong. But Ed's got alchemy. But Ed's not really a fighter. I mean, I don't think he wants to fight. So if he saw a big monster like Broly, he'd probably run. But if he had to fight, I think Ed might put up a good fight. What do you think?
Is Winry involved?
What? Is Winry involved?
Yes.
In the fight?
In general.
No. Let's say she's not. So then who do you think would win? Straight up, man. Broly or Ed?
I'm being honest, Broly, because Ed's got no real drive.
Except to get his arm and leg back.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of drive for that. And get his brother out of the armor.
I feel like that would be a lot more.
I love these questions, by the way. All of these wild hypotheticals reminds me of, I love this. It reminds me of a movie years ago called Stand By Me. Anybody remember that movie?
Barely.
These four boys
Oh yeah, that.
who went out, they heard there was a dead body somewhere on these railroad tracks, and so they take off one day to like hike and go find it, right? Because they'd never seen one before. And they're walking along these railroad tracks, and somebody says, one of the kids says to the other kids, "Hey, who do you think would win in a fight, Superman or Mighty Mouse?" And one of the other boys goes, "Are you stupid? Mighty Mouse is a cartoon. Superman's a real guy." I love it. Yes, Michael?
I think it could go 50-50 if Broly could close the distance.
Oh, we're still on that? Okay. It's 50-50.
Yeah, because if Broly could close the distance, he has a stronger chance of winning, but Edward could use transmutation and turn him into stone or some other base material.
I like your thinking. Anyone want to vote for Ed with me? Anybody? Let's take a consensus. Who thinks Ed would win in a fight? Okay, hands down. Who thinks Broly would win?
That's it.
And half of them don't care. Like, the other half are like, can we get on with something else?
So yesterday you sang for us. Do you think you could do that again for all the news?
Oh, goodness. What? No, I didn't.
You hit the high C.
Oh, that wasn't singing. That was yelling. But last night I sang. Was anyone there? Last night there was an after party at Totally Awesome Bar, an 80s, it's an 80s thing, and the con chair asked me to come and just, you know, just to come and say hello. And I went down there and they were karaokeing. And one of the staff people here, Marie, she's running around today dressed as Zap Brannigan. I walked in, I had just walked in the room and she goes, "Come sing with me." She dragged me up there and we sang Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics. Sweet dreams are made of these. You know that song? And then when I realized it was an 80s thing, I went up to the karaoke guy that's running it, DJ, and I said, has anyone sung the greatest 80s song ever? And he said, "Total Eclipse of the Heart? No." And I was like, no. Don't Stop Believing by Journey. And he's like, no. He's like, nobody's sung it yet. I'm like, put me down. So I sang a little Journey last night. But it was fun. It was really fun. Question? What? What?
Can you sing it here too?
Oh, gosh. Where's my water? Can you sing it?
Probably not.
Oh, but I'm supposed to.
It's your pedal.
It's a very Tomicky response.
That's right, and I command you to sing it. Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere. Yes.
Hey, I was gonna sing it.
Oh, thank you.
And since it's something about the 80s song, according to Billboard, the song in the 80s is physical.
What? You mean the Olivia Newton-John song?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not.
That's not the Billboard.
According to who?
The Billboard.
Billboard?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and also, I know that you voiced like in the anime, the dub, like the stuff anime.
Yeah.
That's different than the villain, the original anime. Like different between the that.
I don't know. Have you seen them both? Do you think there's a difference?
Yeah, from like the English dub and the regular dub.
You mean the Japanese? Well, if you think there's a difference between them, then I believe there is. Question? Yes, my dear.
I used to watch, we're going back in time here, but.
Okay, let's go back in time.
You voiced Tamaki Suo.
Yes! Oh,
And
Tamaki.
did you enjoy voicing him?
I love Tamaki so much. You know, I'm going to tell you my Ouran story. Don't get scared. I had no idea what Ouran High School Nose Club was. In fact, I don't. For the longest time, I didn't even really look up shows until they were dubbed. And when a studio would call me and say, "Hey, we've got this show, you know, you want to audition for it," I knew nothing about any of them until I actually worked on it. But there was this one. Caitlin Glass, do you guys know Caitlin? Caitlin is a very awesome voice actress. She played Winry, and she also played Haruhi, and she directed Ouran. Well, when Ouran first came out in Japanese, nobody had the license for the show yet in English. And Caitlin called me one day, because Caitlin's an anime fan anyway. She called me one day and she said, "I just watched the funniest, greatest anime ever. And there's this character in this anime, it's you." I mean, it's you. She didn't say it's like you or reminds me of you. She said, "It's you." So I'm thinking, I wonder what this anime is. I wonder what this character is like. Is he a jerk? Right? Because then that tells me what Caitlin thinks of me, right? So she said, "I'm going to," with the first 5 episodes or 8 episodes on it. I'm like, okay. So she gave it to me, and it was Ouran, High School Host Club. Still subtitled. And I watched it, and I immediately fell in love with Tamaki. Like, oh my gosh, I love his character so much. Now, what you need to understand, everybody, is that before a show is licensed, you're not going to get to work on it because it's not being dubbed into English. Even if it's licensed, if it gets licensed by a company that is not where you live, you're not going to get to work on it either. So I was living in Houston at the time, and Funimation was in Dallas, but there were anime studios dubbing in Vancouver. If somebody from Vancouver had licensed Ouran, it would be a completely different cast. If a studio in Los Angeles had licensed it, it would be a completely different cast. But as luck would have it, Funimation licensed it. But that still doesn't mean I get to play a role in it, right? You have to audition. You have to, a director has to be chosen. And then there are auditions, and there are plenty of really great actors there. But when it was licensed, I thought, oh my gosh, I want to be in this show so bad. And then Caitlin was selected to direct it. Now you might think that was the shoo-in, right? You might think, well, Caitlin said you were totally like Tamaki, so you're in. Not so much. And I'll tell you why. Because Caitlin is a great director. She's not just going to cast buddies or friends that she likes, and she's not going to cast just one person in one role without taking the whole cast into consideration. Because Ouran High School is an ensembles cast, right? It's a group. So while one person might be good as Mori, they might not work together as well with this person as Honey, or these twins, right? So Caitlin even called me and said, look, I need to cast this as an ensemble. So I know you want to play Tamaki, and I get that, and you'd be great, but I need to make the right decision for the whole group. So I started getting kind of nervous, I was like, oh no, get this close. And I'd never had much interest in playing a character before, ever. I knew nothing about shows before then. So Caitlin held auditions, and I went in for my audition, and I never forget, I walked in the room, and the first thing she said was, well, we know who you want to audition for. And I was like, is that bad? Is that a bad sign, right? So I went in, and I did all the Tamaki lines that were part of the audition, and then she said, do you want to audition for anyone else? And I was like, no, there's nobody else. Like, I just want to play Tamaki. And so she's like, okay. So I auditioned for one of the twins, and I auditioned for Kyoya. And then I left, and I was kind of stressed out because it's kind of a jinx, you know what I mean? You feel like you jinx yourself. If you want something too bad, and you agonize over it, and then you don't get it, you're doubly disappointed, I was at a convention appearance one weekend when she called me and she said, congratulations, you're going to be playing Tamaki. And I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Caitlin. And so I savored every word of that recording, of that dub, of that series. Any chance I could get to do it again, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would love for there to be more of that show. I think it would be incredibly well received. One of my favorite things I've ever done.
There should really be a season 2 because I know the manga.
Right, it does. And the manga continues, and there's plenty of story to tell.
Yeah, for some reason they only do it like 20 to 30 episodes usually.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Did
I
well
will
as
tell
well.
you this though. Based on my observation, Ouran didn't do very well in Japan.
Oh, that makes more sense.
I don't know why, but I went to Tokyo while we were recording Ouran, and I went to Akihabara, which is like anime city, building after building after building of just anime stuff, and I scoured the place, asking the people that worked in the different stores if they had Ouran High School Host Club merchandise. And I had my translator with me, and he would ask them, and they would be like, oh, no. And I was like, darn it. And when I left, I was thinking, wow, like this show must not have been very popular here or done very well, and maybe that's why they never made more. But it certainly did well in English-speaking audiences. So I would love for there to be more. Yes?
On the opposite note of that, has there ever been a character or role that you really wanted to play but never got to get?
Yes. Absolutely. I had fried chicken.
Did I
Sorry.
miss something?
You know what? There are a lot. But several years ago, I started feeling when people asked me that question, I would just answer it, just honestly. But then somebody came up to me one day and they said, you know, Vic, when you tell people characters you wish you could have played, you want to be careful because you don't want the actors who actually did get to play the role think that you're dissing them somehow. You wouldn't want them to think that you're saying you could have done a better job or that you should have been cast, because that's certainly not my intention. That, you know what I mean? That would never be what I would want. So I stopped answering the question. But I will tell you that there were a couple of characters that I started to play. Like I was playing them, and then the company lost the license. And so another company picked it up, and they recast the whole thing. One of them was called Sergeant Frog. Do you guys know Sergeant Frog?
Not particularly.
Caro. I was playing Sergeant Frog. I was playing Caro in that show, and ADV in Houston was dubbing it, and we were like 20 episodes in. I was having so much fun. And then ADV went out of business, and they lost all their licenses, and Funimation picked it up, and they started over and recast the whole thing. Another show was Gurren Lagann. Guys, anybody remember that show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was playing Viral in Gurren Lagann, and then Funimation they went out of business and lost the license, and a company in Los Angeles picked up the license and recast it all from the beginning. And I didn't even live there, so I wasn't going to get to be a part of that. There have been plenty of characters that I really would have liked to have played, but I'm quite certain that the stuff that I've gotten to do is the stuff I was supposed to get to do. You know, I mean, things work out the way they're supposed to. You know, actors always want to play the lead role. You know, your ego pushes you to want to play the main guy all the time. But sometimes the main guy is not the most fun guy, right? Sometimes the main character is even kind of flat, and he's kind of like the anchor, right? And then there are a whole bunch of colorful characters around him that are secondary characters, but they're a lot more fun. I've gotten the chance to do that, like Soul Eater. I auditioned for all those Soul Eater characters, and then I ended up playing Death Scythe, and I didn't know anything about the show. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not playing one of the main guys. I guess I'm playing this guy. But then when we started recording, I'm like, I loved him. He was so funny and sad and weird. And the same with Full Metal Panic. That was a show years ago, a mech show, and I wanted to play the lead, but I ended up getting cast as Kurtz Weber. Kurtz was so much more fun. He was so colorful. And so, you know, those things kind of tend to work out the way they're supposed to. Yes?
So something that kind of got me thinking when you were talking about Ouran before, watched either having a role in them or just hearing from somebody else that they're really good.
You know, years ago somebody told me that Wolf's Rain was a wonderful show, anime. And I wasn't in it, and I didn't know anything about it, but I heard it was really good. And I went and I started to watch it, and it was good, but then I got distracted and I never finished it.
Did you ever go back and watch Full Metal Alchemist?
You know what? I watched it when it came out every night on Cartoon Network.
Really?
Yeah, because here's something maybe interesting that you guys might not realize. You may know that we record alone. We record separately. So this is Alphonse, He comes in and records his lines. There's nobody else in the studio. He records his lines. And if this is Winry, she'll come in and do her lines. And 2 weeks later, Hawkeye will come in and do her lines, right? And on and on. But here's the thing. You only do your lines, and if no one else is recorded yet, you don't hear anything else. And you only record where your character speaks. So there could be entire story arcs going on, for instance, in Central City, but if Ed and Al are not in Central, then I don't even see those scenes. And if I record before Al, or Armstrong, or Winry, or whoever I'm in these scenes with, I don't even get to hear their performances. I don't have anything to act with. So I was just as excited every Saturday night to watch Full Metal as anyone else, because I was interested in seeing everybody in the thing together, and I was also interested in knowing what was going on around all the different story arcs that were going on. Whether it was Scar, if Scar was off killing people and Ed was somewhere else, then I never saw that. Time is money in a recording studio. So you are there to do your lines, not watch the show, So you jump around, and there's really not a great deal of linear continuity to it. So I looked forward to watching it every weekend, just like everybody else. Yes?
Do you
Oh, 1 second.
do you happen to meet, you said you record? Do you meet half the actors that you voice back and forth with?
I know all of them. We all know each other, but we all know each other only for two reasons. One, if we might do a convention together. There are plenty of people that I literally met for the first time, voice actors that I met, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so-and-so? That I would have never otherwise met.
Yeah.
And the only other time that you might see them is if you're leaving the studio when they're coming, or if you kind of pass each other in a hallway. But because you record alone, you could conceivably do an entire series and never meet the people that played your brother or your mom or your best friend. So you do this whole series where you're trying your best to play this character and connect with this other character. You might not have even ever met that person. All you know is their voice. I'll tell you a funny thing about Full Metal. I've met probably almost all of the main character actors from Full Metal, but you know who I've never met to this day? The woman who played my mom. The woman who played Trisha Elric. You're like, how could you not have met her? Well, how much was she in the show? 1 episode? 2? And she had how many lines? 15? 20? Well, you knock that out in half an hour. In other words, she comes in, knocks it all out, and she's gone. Why would I ever see, there was never any opportunity to meet her. And I believe, she's got like a family or whatever, so she doesn't do convention. I saw her doing an event. So it's weird. And at the same time, you listen to somebody's voice enough that you've never met, and you feel like you know them. You don't.
Yeah.
And when you finally meet them, they could either be like, oh my gosh, and hugs like you knew each other all your lives, or like, oh hey, how you doing? Like they don't feel the same connection. I'm one of those people that feels a huge connection to anybody I do anything creative with. If we build something together, like I feel like we're friends, you know what I mean? Or if we're in a show together, I feel like I know you. And not everybody's like that. Some people, it's a job, you know what I mean? It's a job. They come in, they do their job. But I have a lot of very dear friends that I've met working on shows together. Yes?
So, what voice actor and what live action actor are your biggest inspiration?
Well, I have no voice actor inspirations because I really never planned to be a voice actor. I mean, I liked most of the same things that most people do. when I was a kid, Scooby-Doo and, Bugs Bunny and that kind of stuff. But I didn't have any real inspirations because I never really planned to do it. As far as on camera, like live, I don't really have any. I had an interesting conversation the other day with somebody. Who was that? I was in a small group of people, and we were talking about live action movie stars voicing animated movies. How they try to get some big names to be voices in theatrical animated films. And during this conversation, what came up was the idea of star power. Like, do I go to see a movie simply because this guy that I like is in the movie? Or do I buy every record of this artist because I like this artist's first record? I'm not one of those type of people. I can't think of any movie actor or actor in general whose work I admire or love so much that anything they would ever do, I will go see. That's just not my